David Callahan wakes to the sound of morning traffic echoing through cracked blinds. His small apartment feels more like a waiting room than a home. The silence presses against him. He stares at an old photograph on the table. Laura's smile. Ethan's 5-year-old grin. His own arm draped protectively over them. That picture feels like someone else's life. He reaches for his phone, scrolls through social media, and freezes at a graduation post, tagged with Ethan's name. The cap, the gown, the date, the pride in every comment, none from him. He wasn't invited, not by his son, not by Laura. Yet the ache beneath his ribs refuses to be quiet. Regret fills the air like smoke. He mutters, "I missed everything," his voice almost breaking. Then he stands, grabs his jacket, and stares at the photo one last time. Something shifts in his eyes. Resolve. He's going. David drives through the industrial side of town, the radio murmuring half-tuned stations. His brother Mark's contact flashes on the phone. He doesn't answer. Instead, he replays old voicemails. Laura's voice from years ago. "You missed his game again, David." He winces. The city outside is gray, indifferent. Every stoplight feels like judgment. He whispers to himself, "I should have called. I should come home sooner." The guilt rides shotgun, steady and quiet. At the same hour, Laura ties her hair into a bun before work. The kitchen smells of toast and coffee. On the counter lies Ethan's graduation robe, perfectly folded. She glances at it with pride and sadness intertwined. She hesitates, then scrolls past David's contact on her phone. The distance between them isn't miles. It's time, words unsaid, years unhealed. Mark Callahan leans against his workbench, phone pressed to his ear. "He's not ready, David. You can't just show up." His tone is firm, but compassionate. On the other end, David listens in silence. Mark sighs. "You had your reasons, I know, but Ethan's still healing." The line goes quiet. Two brothers standing on opposite shores of regret. Night falls. David parks at a gas station on the edge of town. The hum of fluorescent lights above him. He stares at the road ahead, toward the town he left behind. His reflection in the windshield looks older than his years. He whispers, "This time, I'll be there." The moment is quiet, but monumental. The point of no return. The road stretches endless beneath a sky bruised with dawn. David drives alone, windows down, wind humming through the cab. The silence is filled with memories. Ethan's laughter from a decade ago. Laura's voice calling him home. The sound of a door closing for the last time. He grips the steering wheel tighter as he passes mile markers that feel like years. Every highway exit sign carries a memory of something missed. Birthdays, games, first dances. He pulls into a rest stop, kills the engine, and lets the stillness press against him. A family nearby laughs over breakfast sandwiches. He watches them and feels the quiet ache of all he's lost. His reflection in the windshield stares back like a ghost of the father he wanted to be. He stops for fuel outside a town he once worked in, a small station frozen in time. The same place where, years ago, he called Laura to say he wouldn't make it home for Ethan's 5th birthday. The memory hits him like a sudden gust. He steps inside for coffee, the old cashier nodding in vague recognition. He wonders if people can sense regret, if it lingers on a person's face like a scar. The gas pump clicks off, and he stares at the empty horizon. "I was always too late," he murmurs. But this time, he presses onward. In a vivid flashback, David stands at a payphone, 10 years younger, rain pelting the glass booth. "I'll make it up to him," he promises Laura's distant voice. But we see Laura, 35 then, standing beside a small cake with 5 candles and a boy waiting at the window. Young Ethan's eyes dim when the headlights never come. David remembers hanging up, sinking against the booth, knowing even then he was losing them. The sound of rain becomes the rhythm of guilt. By nightfall, David checks into a small roadside motel. The clerk doesn't ask questions. Inside, the hum of a flickering neon sign bleeds through thin curtains. He lays on the bed, stares at the ceiling, and replays the last conversation he had with Ethan months ago. Strained and brief. "I'm proud of you," he'd said. "Sure," Ethan replied, voice flat, and hung up. David turns to the photo he carries, the same one from his apartment, and whispers, "Maybe you'll see me there." For the first time, he allows himself to hope. The next morning, David sits outside the motel, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Ethan's number. His truck is packed. The town where his son will graduate is less than an hour away. The phone vibrates. Mark again, but David lets it ring. He isn't ready to speak. Some journeys need silence. He takes a deep breath, starts the engine, and drives toward the unknown, toward the chance to see his son cross a stage he never helped build. The day begins with soft sunlight cutting through Ethan's bedroom curtains. The room smells faintly of laundry, detergent, and cologne. He sits on the edge of his bed, staring at his graduation cap resting on the desk. Laura calls from the kitchen, her voice trembling with pride. "Breakfast's ready." Ethan exhales, eyes distant, pride and emptiness mixing quietly inside him. Downstairs, Laura hums an old song. The one David used to sing to calm their baby boy. She doesn't realize she's humming it. The morning feels like a fragile bridge, the kind that could break or hold strong. In the bathroom mirror, Laura adjusts a pearl earring and stares at her reflection for longer than usual. The lines near her eyes are new, carved by nights of worry. She smooths the collar of her blouse and whispers to herself, "You did it, Laura. He made it." For a moment, she allows a flicker of pride to replace the fatigue. But when she passes by the framed family photo in the hallway, her expression softens. That one picture where David's arm was around both of them. She pauses, fingertips brushing the glass. "He should see this," she murmurs, then shakes it off, leaving the thought behind like dust. David drives into town just before noon. He recognizes everything. The diner they used to visit, the playground where he taught Ethan to ride a bike. Time hasn't changed the streets, only he has changed. He passes the high school, banners fluttering in the breeze, students in robes gathering for rehearsal. His heart pounds. He parks across the street and watches from his truck, unseen. His fingers tighten on the steering wheel. The distance between him and that stage feels heavier than any miles he's driven. Ethan sits in the passenger seat of Laura's car as she drives toward the auditorium. He fiddles with his tassel, silent. Laura glances over, smiling. "You okay?" He nods, "Yeah," but his voice trembles slightly. Outside, he spots a man in an old pickup truck parked near the school, head bowed. Something about the shape of his shoulders feels familiar. He blinks, shakes it off. Must be nothing. The moment passes, but his chest tightens anyway. For reasons he can't explain, David checks into a small motel on the edge of town. The clerk hands him the key without looking up. He opens the curtain and sees the town's water tower in the distance. The one Ethan once painted for a school project. He sits at the desk, pen in hand, and writes a note on motel stationery. "If you see me, just know I never stopped loving you." He folds it carefully, slips it into his pocket, and stares at his reflection in the window. The faint sound of the high school marching band practicing echoes through the air. Tomorrow will be the day, one he wasn't invited to, but needs to witness more than anything. The high school field is alive with color and noise. Gowns fluttering, cameras flashing, proud parents filling the bleachers. Laura holds her program tightly, searching for Ethan among a sea of caps. She's radiant yet restless, her smile too careful. David parks far away, walks slowly toward the crowd. blending into the edges of celebration. The closer he gets, the smaller he feels. No one looks twice, just another face among hundreds. But every laugh, every cheer cuts deep. His eyes scan the stage, finding Ethan adjusting his cap, tall, nervous, so grown. A single tear slips down David's cheek before he can stop it. The principal's voice drones over the speakers, words about achievement and bright futures. David barely hears them. His gaze stays on Ethan, memorizing every movement. Laura claps politely, tears glistening in her eyes. Ethan shifts, scanning the audience. His eyes sweep across the crowd and, for the briefest heartbeat, pause. David feels the air leave his lungs. Ethan frowns slightly, uncertain. Maybe recognizing, maybe imagining. Laura leans toward him, whispering, "What's wrong?" He shakes his head. Nothing. But everything inside him has shifted. Names echo through the microphone. When Ethan Callahan is called, Laura's heart swells, standing and cheering, her voice shaking. David's lips part, but no sound comes. He watches as Ethan walks across the stage, shaking hands, accepting his diploma. The crowd erupts. For a fleeting second, Ethan glances toward the bleachers again. And there, through the shifting sea of faces, he sees his father clearly this time. Their eyes lock. No words, no gestures, just the weight of everything between them. Ethan's smile falters. David lowers his gaze. The applause continues, but for them, time stops. The ceremony winds down. Students toss their caps into the air, joy exploding like confetti. Laura laughs, crying as she films on her phone. David stays seated, hands clasped, eyes closed. The roar of celebration feels far away. When he finally stands, he hesitates, wanting to leave before anyone notices. But as he turns toward the parking lot, he sees Ethan stepping off the stage, weaving through friends and families, his gaze scanning the crowd with quiet urgency. Their reunion is inevitable, but not yet. David turns, disappearing into the shadows of the bleachers. David lingers by the chain-link fence at the edge of the field. The sky burns orange and pink. The sound of celebration behind him fades to distant echoes. He takes out the folded note from his pocket, the one he wrote in the motel room. For a moment, he considers leaving it behind. Maybe under a windshield wiper, maybe in Laura's hand if fate allows. But before he decides, he looks up. Across the field, Ethan stands still, watching him. Neither moves. The wind ripples between them like an invisible curtain. Then David turns, walking away. Ethan doesn't follow. Not yet. The ceremony is over. The parking lot overflows with laughter, embraces, and the clicking of cameras. David stands by his truck, watching from afar. Ethan, still in his gown, moves through the crowd, searching. Their eyes meet again. This time, there's no mistaking it. David freezes. Ethan's pace slows, anger and confusion rising beneath his disbelief. Laura emerges behind Ethan, phone in hand, still glowing from pride. When she follows her son's gaze and sees David standing there, her smile collapses. The moment stretches, the air thick and charged like a brewing storm. Ethan walks forward, slow, measured. The noise of celebration blurs into static. "What are you doing here?" His voice is calm, but trembling. David opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. Laura grips Ethan's arm. "Let's go, honey." But Ethan shakes her off, eyes locked on his father. "You don't get to show up now." David steps closer. "I just wanted to see you walk that stage." Ethan's face twists. You missed every stage before this? The crowd has thinned. Their words echo against car doors and wind. David nods, voice low. You're right, but I couldn't stay away this time. Laura steps forward, her voice shaking. You don't get to make this about you, David. The years of silence unravel in her tone. You left. You missed birthdays, doctor visits, college letters. David's eyes lower. I know. No, you don't, she says, voice breaking. You don't know what it's like to explain why his father doesn't call. Ethan's breathing quickens. Mom, stop. Laura softens instantly. Tears welling. I'm sorry. I didn't want this day to hurt. David finally looks at her. Really looks. And the weight of what he's done fills the air between them like smoke. The wind picks up. Ethan turns sharply toward his father. You think showing up fixes anything? His voice cracks, raw. David's response trembles. No. I just wanted to be here, to see who you became. Ethan steps closer, eyes wet with fury. You don't get to be proud. You weren't there. Silence hangs. Then David whispers, You're right. That truth lands heavy. No excuses, no defense. Ethan exhales sharply, fighting the lump in his throat. I waited for you, he says, quieter now. David's face crumbles. The first raindrops fall, light but relentless. The rain steadies, soft but endless. None of them speak. Laura finally steps forward, umbrella in hand, placing it between them like a fragile truce. We can't change the past, she says quietly. David nods. But maybe I can show up now. Ethan looks at both of them. The mother who stayed, the father who finally came back. And something in him softens. Not forgiveness yet, but the exhaustion of carrying resentment too long. He turns away, voice low. I don't know if I can, David replies. I'll wait. The rain blurs the edges of everything. Grief, love, and possibility. Night settles softly over the town. Rain drips from rooftops, pooling in quiet streets. David sits in his truck outside the motel, clothes damp, hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. He replays Ethan's voice. I don't know if I can. Those words loop like a song he can't turn off. Across town, Laura drives home in silence, her son staring out the passenger window, reflections of streetlights dancing across his face. None of them speak, yet the storm has left something open. A wound, but also a door. David exhales slowly. He doesn't start the engine. He waits. A soft knock echoes through the motel room. David hesitates before opening the door. Ethan stands there, still in his wrinkled gown, hair damp from the rain. Neither speaks at first. I didn't know where else to go, Ethan mutters. David steps aside. You came. That's enough. The air between them is thick, uncertain, but real. Ethan's eyes wander. The same photo still lies on the table. You kept that, he says quietly. David nods. Every day. Something in Ethan's shoulders loosens. Not forgiveness, but recognition. The first bridge forms. They sit opposite each other at the small table. The hum of the air conditioner fills the silence. Why'd you come back? Ethan asks. David exhales. Because missing you hurt worse than being rejected. Ethan studies him. You always said work was for us. David nods slowly. And it was. But I used that as an excuse. I didn't know how to stay. Ethan's jaw tightens. Mom did. David's eyes glisten. I know. She's stronger than me. The truth lands softly. Not to win forgiveness, but to earn understanding. Ethan looks away, blinking hard. You should have called, he whispers. I know, David says. But I'm here now. Meanwhile, Laura sits alone in her kitchen. The robe Ethan wore lies folded neatly beside a cup of untouched tea. She stares out the window, the house still humming from the echoes of celebration. On her phone, an unread message from Mark appears. "He's still your family, Laura." She locks the screen, exhales shakily, and whispers, "I know." Her eyes close. She isn't angry anymore, only tired. She looks toward the empty driveway, half hoping, half dreading to see David's truck again. Back in the motel, the rain stops. The silence feels cleaner now. Ethan stands to leave. "I don't know where this goes," he admits. David nods. "Wherever you want it to." Ethan hesitates, then reaches into his gown pocket, pulling out his graduation cap. "You missed a lot," he says softly, "but you didn't miss this." He places the cap on the table and walks to the door. David's eyes fill as he touches the cap gently, reverently. "Thank you," he whispers. Ethan pauses in the doorway. "See you around, Dad." The door closes softly, not as an ending, but a beginning. A month later, the sun rises on a new chapter. David's pickup rattles down a tree-lined street, the back piled with boxes and bedding. Ethan walks ahead toward his new dorm, shoulders tense but lighter. Laura trails behind, carrying a small plant. The air hums with awkward peace. No words, just shared motion. David stops beside the curb, watching his son laugh briefly with another student. Pride wells up, soft and painful. He catches Laura's eye across the sunlight. She smiles. Small, tentative, but real. Inside the dorm, the air smells of new paint and fresh beginnings. David sets a box on the desk while Ethan arranges his bedding. Laura straightens a picture frame, a new photo of Ethan alone, framed by sunlight. David notices an empty space beside it. He says quietly, "You've got room for more memories." Ethan smiles faintly. "Maybe I'll add some." Laura exhales, leaning against the wall. For a moment, they all just stand there. Not fixing, not apologizing, just existing together without tension. Laura and David step outside while Ethan talks with new roommates. The campus buzzes faintly in the background. "He's different," Laura says. David nods. "So are you." She glances at him, half a smile. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." He shakes his head. "Not anymore." Silence hangs. But it's a gentler kind, no longer heavy with blame, but with the weight of what's been released. Laura replies softly. "For what?" "For not giving up on him, even when I did." Ethan joins them by the truck. "Guess this is it," he says, trying to sound casual. David hands him a folded envelope. "Just something to help with gas money. Or pizza." Ethan chuckles. "You don't have to," David interrupts softly. "I want to." The exchange is small, but monumental. Laura hugs Ethan tightly, whispering something only he hears. Then David extends his hand. Ethan looks at it, hesitates, and pulls him into a hug instead. No grand speeches, just the sound of a father's breath catching in disbelief and gratitude. David drives away slowly, glancing once in the rearview mirror. Ethan stands on the sidewalk with Laura, waving. The campus shrinks in the distance, sunlight spilling across the road ahead. His hands are steady on the wheel. The first time in years they've stopped shaking. He whispers to himself. "He saw me." The wind hums through the open window, carrying peace instead of regret. As he disappears down the long road, the same one that once took him away, his face softens. This time he isn't leaving, he's moving forward.